Okay, so let's talk about scaling with weight. In a recipe, sometimes they might ask for pounds, ounces, grams, any of those things. And so you're gonna have to use a scale. Now, I have digital scales that I really like. There are bigger scales and so forth. This is just one that I got from just like Bed Bath & Beyond. This one is a little more complex. This is a very expensive scale. The one I got from Bed Bath & Beyond ranges between $20 and $75, where this one was like a $300 scale that I was able to get from Reb Restaurant. And it's a little more intense. It can carry more weight. So the total amount of pounds on this is different than this, and this one's more accurate and precise. So I like to use this. So the biggest thing with scales that people don't remember is anything I place on here is already weighing. So I want to use the tare button to go ahead and zero out whatever it is, a bowl or a measuring cup or so forth. Once I tare it out, whatever I put in it after that point, it's gonna start to measure. The units, I can change it to anything, whether I want pounds to just be on the screen, whether I want pounds and ounces, grams, or just ounces and so forth. So I always start by turning it on. And I always start with the tare right away. I make sure it's in the right unit. Right now it's in pounds and ounces, exactly what I need for my recipe. I have my scaling bowls over here and all my ingredients are to my right. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started. So interesting, this is a chocolate chip cookie recipe. So I'm gonna go ahead and tare this bowl and then finish with my thought. So now the bowl is not included in my weight, okay? But interesting enough, this is a chocolate chip cookie recipe where it is scaled. So the brown sugar in most recipes, so we're gonna start with the sugar. The brown sugar in most recipes has to be packed and in a measuring cup. It might not say packed, but brown sugar should always be packed unless it is scaled. So this is scaled, so I need just 6 ounces of brown sugar. And there we go, okay. And then brown sugar, to store it properly, I'm gonna put this in a Ziploc bag or a container, wrap it in saran wrap because brown sugar has a lot of moisture in it and it will harden very quickly. So that's my brown sugar for my recipe, and then I can keep moving along. So I'll go ahead and I'm going to tare out another bowl. And I'm gonna get ready for my sugar. I'm always gonna bring my items to the scale. I'm not gonna try to walk across my kitchen to keep weighing things out. And I need the same amount of sugar. So I need 6 ounces of sugar. So you can go slow. You can always take some out with the dry ingredients, which is nice. So I have my sugar there. And then put my lid back on. Now, my butter is scaled as well. I need 9 ounces of butter. What do we know about butter? We know that commercially butter comes in a pound, okay? We also know that this is 16 ounces, so half of this is 8. So if I need 9 ounces, I'm gonna need half of this plus a little bit. So it kind of gives me a starting point on how much I should put on the scale initially. I like to cut butter with my bench scraper. Some people like to use a knife. I like to use my bench scraper. And I'm gonna go ahead and grab a glass bowl because I will need to soften this butter in the microwave. And I can't put the metal bowls in the microwave to make my recipe. The butter has been sitting out for a couple hours, so it is already slightly softened. But to do the creamy method for the cookies, I'll need to soften it some more. So I wanna make sure I use the bowl that I need. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this in there and see what it says. So we're at 8.8, so we're only a little bit off from the 9 ounce mark. Oh, 8.9. And there we go, so 9 ounces of butter. And then same thing with this, make sure you're storing your things properly. You're gonna wanna get your saran wrap out. Mine's behind me, and I will wrap these things after I am done. Next, we'll go ahead and we'll jump to the flour. So the flour, I need 13 ounces of flour. Same thing, I'm gonna bring the container to me. I'm gonna tare out my bowl so it says 0. That's the biggest thing I find, is people forget to tare out their bowl. I'm gonna go ahead and get my 13 ounces. Okay, and once I have that, I'll be able to put this to the side and keep moving on. Okay, so 2 eggs. The eggs are not weighed. Sometimes you will get where the egg is weighed. If the egg is weighed, you may have to, like if you put eggs in there and then you put a full egg but you don't need that full egg, you may need to whisk them if the recipe allows you to whisk. And then pull out what you need. So here, I have a sharp corner here on my countertop that I use, but if you are really conscious about it, you don't sanitize very well, you're worried about egg dropping down, you can use a offset spatula to crack your eggshells on. It gives a clean cut, and then I will pull apart. Oops. And we always want to measure the eggs separately. If I had a big mass of eggs, I could measure them individually in a different size container and then just keep dumping them in. Why do I want to do that? A couple of reasons. One, it prevents from shells getting into a mass amount of eggs. Two, if there's a bad egg and I need a lot of eggs, like I need 36 eggs and I'm cracking away and there's a bad egg and I crack that egg, it's a red egg or it's just a bad egg, and I crack it into a big container, I have to throw all 36 eggs out. So it's sometimes good to measure in a smaller container and then dump them in, but I just needed to, so I did that quickly. Now I'm gonna go ahead and measure out my vanilla, because in my cookie recipe, I can blend my vanilla with my eggs. And I just need 1 tablespoon. Vanilla is very expensive. This is actually real vanilla. It's very expensive. Most times now you'll find just vanilla flavoring. So we want to make sure that we do a good job. Notice I measured over here before dumping it into my egg, so I know I had exact. In baking, we really want to make sure we have exact measurements. Okay, so the only thing left I gotta do the chocolate chips and the walnut pieces. So I'm gonna go ahead and do those. I need 12 ounces of chocolate chips. This is actually a 12-ounce bag, but just for fun, let's just see if it actually weighs out that. 12.2, very good. And then my walnuts here can go in the same bag, and I need 12 ounces of those. Okay. So that's for that. And then now I just need my baking soda and my salt. These are also, in this situation, they are measured with measuring spoons. They're not measuring by scale, so I can get that out of the way. Something to know, baking soda is a leavening agent. Our leavening agents are baking soda, baking powder, and yeast usually in the kitchen. There's also air leavening. You can leaven with eggs. But baking soda and baking powder are chemical leavening agents. Baking soda is a single-acting leavening agent, meaning that it's only going to act once, and that's when the wet and dry ingredients meet. It's going to start reacting and producing CO2 to create that leavening in your baked products. Baking powder is actually double acting, so it reacts twice. It's going to react once when the wet and the dry ingredients meet, and it's also going to react when heat is added to it in the oven. So just some things to know. You can't usually substitute them out evenly in recipes, so you have to be careful with that. Okay, so we need a teaspoon of baking soda and a half a teaspoon of salt. I can put both of these in the same thing, but I'm going to go ahead, since I'm done with this measuring cup, I'm going to measure over this. I don't want extra salt or baking soda. One could create a too salty texture and one create too bitter. And then 1 teaspoon. You want to make sure you level it out, okay? I can use my offset spatulas, my metal spatulas, to do that if I needed to. Okay, so there you have it. So this is scaling with a weight. You need a digital scale, or you could use a baker scale for this, and you need to scale it out with weight.